So, it was when I still have journal entries from when I was young of, writing about how much I love football. And looking back, I don't know exactly what it was that drove me to that specific sport because my dad was a collegiate basketball coach. My mom was a director of nursing at a small college. But my twin sister and we were obsessed with football. And I think if anyone has seen this movie, The Little Giants, um,
Yeah.
that so that might tell you my age, if you guys know what that movie is. And if you don't, please check it out because it's a amazing movie. And then also there's a girl that plays football with a bunch of boys and they call her Icebox. And I think I realized just seeing that I could also play football, but I didn't see it as a career path until later in life where I saw Becky Hammon coaching in the NBA. And even though I had been involved in football, I didn't really realize that could be a potential landing spot for me until I saw that. And then a light bulb went off, and I knew that I had to find a way to get in the NFL.
And, you talk about building blocks and early on in your career, I think there are just things that really stick with you and people that have an impact on you. And it was always, look, you're more than welcome to, be involved in some other things. But remember, your career is, before 9 and after 5, your job is 9 to 5. So you can build your career outside of your job. And that's really where I learned, putting in the extra time and effort and doing those other things was critical and, continuing to build upon that. But, I think that was those early stages of just, learning all of that were critical and kind of setting the path for the opportunities and other things that, I think were down the road.
And oftentimes, a lot of people would ask, how does it feel to be the only woman in the room? And I'm sure Dawn has also been asked that question. But the reality is, me being a woman is just one of my differences. And the more that you reflect that we all have differences, we all had a different background to get to where we are. We all had, someone who helped us along the way. We all have this story to tell. And mine is no different in the way that we are all different. And I think that's what's important to remind yourself as you encounter different situations, or what are the facts and what's the narrative you're telling yourself.
You're not going to fight someone's perception by talking in words. It's only through your actions that's going to change them. And I think that's always been my focus in taking the, victim mentality. Like, how could you say that? Why would you, that's not, to me, that wasn't going to get me anywhere. So it was, you talk about mental state and how bad do you want it, and you have to just keep working at it. And, I think those are just some of the things that you learn, that they're going to say it, but at some point there's nothing more gratifying than proving them wrong.
Word tough, I think it's better used as confidence. You have to have a lot of confidence, like Dawn said. I think that's one of the main factors that leads to success in an environment where you might feel like you are part of the marginalized group. And I think the more confident you feel, the more you reflect on the idea that everyone around you also has doubts, everyone around you also has some sort of weakness. And the more that you can reflect and be honest with yourself and work to improve those things so that you can be the most confident, best version of yourself, that's where you find success in terms of those male dominated situations.
Yeah. And I think, when we talk about purpose and why early on in my career, it was probably far more selfishly motivated in terms of your purpose is to continue to grow and develop. And even to this day, that's really important to me. But as time goes on, you really realize relationships having an impact, not on just a process or, an organization, but really on people and the interaction with those individuals. And, now 30 plus years into this, I can't explain the types of relationships that I've made in this industry. And it all started at the Jets, and, they gave me that opportunity. And, I think that really set an important foundation and really taught me, even though it probably took me a lot longer to realize how important that was in my why and what my purpose is.
When I think of myself as I'm different, just like everyone else is different. I guess that's more of how I train myself to have confidence when that there is a reality that I was the only woman in that room. And there was the reality that I was, treated differently at sometimes, whether people knew it or not. And I think the things like that happen to us in these male dominated environments aren't going to change until we see a societal change, until we see young girls that don't look at a football team and just think of boys, that just think that opportunities are only for this group of people, this set of people. So it starts at an extremely young age, and until we can continue to change the way we talk, the way we raise our children, what we show our children. I mean, it may sound like a Miss America answer, but I truly believe that's where change will happen, and it's going to happen over time. It's not going to happen instantly, but I'm already seeing it happen even a lot within the last year.
Something that you guys both mentioned that really stuck out to me was the fact that, you felt as a woman, you had to kind of prove you could do it for people to believe you could do it, instead of oftentimes men are believed that they can do it until they can't. I believe that was actually, Katie, you said something along those lines. Does that play into that a little bit about, perspective and people being able to adjust, as having that as an experience, having to prove yourself?
I think, yeah, I think when I would think about my career and everything that I had been through, I did realize that there's this reality that it's assumed that a woman won't know something until she proves she does, whereas a man, it's assumed that he does know it until he proves he doesn't. And that reality, I think, drives a lot of the work ethic. That's the reality. And how do you improve that? How do you continue to move forward? And part of that comes with having those candid conversations, but also just needing to better yourself and know that I am going to work 10 times harder than the person next to me. Not saying that that's not what's right. That's not what, it's just what I'm going to do to make sure that I'm the best version of myself, that I am successful in this business.
Dawn, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree that was definitely my mindset and my approach, that I did have to prove myself. I had to work harder. I knew early on, like I said, if I did want to get on the football side, my drive for going and getting my CPA, my MBA, my law degree was all in to ensure that at no point in time when I sat in front of someone, they could distinguish me from a male candidate by saying, you don't have a law degree. Well, this person went to grad school, or like, I wanted all of that off the table to really try to focus on my abilities and what I was able to do. And that probably still hasn't changed today.
Yeah, I think being an ally is so important, regardless of what it is, whether it's men supporting women, straight people supporting gay people. I think that there is this idea that, if it's just someone speaking about only something that pertains to them, then it's just continues to just be their problem. So I think it's so important that we have allies that speak up. And for me, when you find those people who are passionate about making the game better, about making the organization better, it's so critical that it doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman, that you have the same goal in mind, and that their passion for change is just as true as yours. For me, one of the things that I hear a lot, and I'm sure Dawn gets questions like this, are you going to be the first head coach? Are you going to be the first commissioner, female commissioner, whatever it might be? And I think the important thing is, that when you say that you want to be the first, you're unconsciously or consciously racing against other women. And when you race against other women, you're racing against progress. And it's important that there is a first. And if you are the first, then that's great. But the most important thing is that there's a second, third, fourth, and that you are not the last, like Dawn said. I think there always is going to be added pressure when you are the only woman in the room. Your mistakes, I think it's just natural for society right now. If you make a mistake, that oftentimes you, whether you think it or whether people actually do say it, or the idea is if you make a mistake, it's because you're a woman. And so there is that added pressure. And so you have to be able to deal with pressure. You have to be able to also feel confident in yourself and what you bring to the table. And the more confident you feel in what you bring, the less pressure you feel.
And in terms of advice, I think, as I said, I think it is so important to really live in today, live in the moment, enjoy the journey, because there are so many things that are amazing about, particularly working in this industry, that, don't take it for granted, because as Katie said, you can't really map out your path. Like anything you try to control, it probably is not going to most likely won't happen that way. So, take your experiences, build upon them, and, really, enjoy what you're doing. So